Hi everybody, I'm Skip Alzheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show, where we watch old 16mm films and then scratch our heads and try to figure out what's going on. So that last footage was, it was home movie footage, travel footage, somewhere that was celebrating Carnival, which of course is this thing that happens. It's Mardi Gras, basically. Or something close to Mardi Gras in New Orleans, but in South America, Carnival is kind of this weird mixture, I guess, of Catholicism and then other local stuff. And the costumes in this were phenomenal. The people of color in blackface is puzzling, but they were also, as we saw, in whiteface. So it was all part of the festivities of that time. And it looks like they were trying to approximate a minstrel show. So, yeah, very, very, very strange. Behind me, I have a film set up that I ordered from somebody whose father ran a film library, rental library. And I ordered it, and it was the wrong film, but we're going to watch it anyways. So here's Battle and Bass. Enjoy.
There are lots of nice things about fishing. Almost anywhere you go, some form of this fascinating sport can be enjoyed. Big game fish are great sport to catch, but one can have as much fun with the smaller varieties on very light tackle. The lighter your tackle, the better chance the fish has to get away. But that's the sport of the game. Fishing for baby tarpon with a fly rod and any ordinary popping type of bass plug will give you plenty of fun. These baby tarpon have all the acrobatic fighting inclinations of their great-granddaddies. Many of them grow up in the small streams and ditches of the Everglades marshes that drain into the Gulf Stream. From 1 pound to 242 pounds, which is the world's record, the tarpon is a most spectacular performer. And catching even a baby tarpon on a fly rod is real fun. For the sportsman, there's always more to fishing than just to fish. For instance, the enjoyment of a sight such as this. A flock of rare roseate spoonbills winging their way over the vast prairies and cypress swamps. Farther down the canal, we find another likely-looking spot and lay the bass bug out on the dark water. Sacco, another baby tarpon strikes, and the fun begins again. This one is a little fellow, but what a fighter. Very gently, the prize is eased to the bank to be lifted out. Most tarpon fishermen like to see how big a fish they can catch. But this time we're after the flyweight record. This little fighter weighed just 7.5 ounces, and yet he took an artificial lure and fought with all the gameness the most fastidious angler could desire. He's scarcely longer than a man's hand, and is probably only a few weeks old. These tarpon are spawned somewhere along the edge of the Gulf, and after being hatched, make their way far back into the Everglades, to grow big enough to protect themselves until they return to the haunts of their parents. Florida is also famed for its wonderful bass fishing. Silver River, in the north-central part of the state, is one of the many places where these bronze beauties are plentiful. Bait and lure casting is a popular way to catch bass. And here we go to try our luck and test our skill. Selecting the proper lure is most important, but it isn't easy to make a choice from an assortment such as this. Surface plugs, underwater plugs and spoons, poppers, clunkers, darters, and divers. But let's select a flashing metal wobbler to which a strip of pork rind is attached. We're using a light 5.5-foot split bamboo bait casting rod, a level winding reel, and 12-pound test nylon line. An ideal combination for bass fishing. And that wriggling pork rind and flashing metal certainly should coax a big one out of his cool, shady retreat. If this lure doesn't work, we'll try others until we find one the fish will take. There he is, and he's well hooked. Not a big one, but full of fight. The play of the rod and a taut line soon wear him out, and he's brought alongside the boat. We lift him out by the lower jaw. He's probably over the legal limit, but the fun is in the catching, so back goes this little fighter to grow some more. Such promising water makes it hard for a fisherman to decide where to try next. The bass, whether bigmouth or smallmouth, is one of the gamest fish that swims. If he grew as big as the tarpon, it's doubtful whether any angler fishing from a small boat with rod and reel could land him. Even the experts sometimes miss a fish, usually more often than they're willing to admit. But sometimes they seem to be right there waiting to strike. Finally, he comes to the surface and shakes his head violently in an effort to throw the hook, but to no avail. We land him, and this one is a keeper all right, just the size for the frying pan. Moving on along the shoreline, it's hard to keep from sightseeing, but soon there's more action. Incidentally, we've had no reason to change that pork rind lure, as it certainly is proving effective. These Silver River bass are strong, active, beautifully marked fish, living as they do in this cold, clear, spring-fed river. This is the sort of bass fishing that everyone dreams about. Beautiful surroundings and plenty of fish to be caught. There's nothing particularly backbreaking about this kind of fishing, but the excitement of landing a big bass is just as intense. The satisfaction as deep and long-lasting as the boating of 100-pound tarpon. Let's try that place again. There ought to be another. And there is. This is a big one, who fights stubbornly and puts a real strain on the tackle. But at last, he too gives up and is lifted out of the water. It's tough to quit when there are bass like this to be caught. But let's remember a very important fisherman's rule. Don't take more fish than you need, and always put the little ones back. The best part of this day is that the big one did not get away. Here's a largemouth bass that really lives up to his name. 10 pounds of him. So let's take 'em home, bass for supper, but that's just incidental to a day out of doors and a day of real sport.
Loaded with a cargo of wealthy sportsmen, a great clipper plane heads seaward from Miami, bound for the fisherman's paradise of the South Atlantic. Fishermen prepare their weapons for the deep-sea wars. For 50 miles offshore lies the tiny island of Cat Cay, a subtropical isle devoted exclusively to fishing. It is the retreat of millionaire sportsmen from every corner of the earth. Over the island flies the flag of the empire, upon which the sun never sets. The very atmosphere of Cat Cay suggests leisure, and its cool white bungalows reflect the ease and luxury of tropic living. Unhurried Negro servants carry the white man's burden of breakfast in bed. No angry squawking horns disturb the quiet of this peaceful land, where motor cars are forbidden and there are no commuters' trains to catch. At Cat Cay's palm-fringed beach, a fish fence protects the swimmer from attacks of deadly sharks and barracuda. But here also, the visitor pursues a life of careless ease. While fishing is the main occupation of sportsmen at Cat Cay, the skeet range offers diversion for marksmen to bang away at clay pigeons. But it's time to put out to the fishing grounds, for all is shipshape aboard the cruiser, and the fisherman's blood starts tingling with the subdued excitement that precedes a fight with a worthy adversary. They'll need all their strength and skill to battle the opponent. They hunt in the blue beyond the horizon. So it's out to sea for the hunters of the deep to scout the game fish that cruise the tropic waters. A mackerel sewn to the hook is the lure that is designed to entice the wily game fish. Preparing the lure and the line demand exacting care, for upon these preliminaries depends the success of hooking the fish after it strikes. The lines are attached to wooden snap fins that will support trolling, but which will release under the weight and pull of a mighty fighter. Arranged on outriggers, 2 lines may be trolled without fouling. These derrick-like arms are not used to land fish, but they permit the lines to be dragged wide and free of the boat's weight. But there's a marlin fin. He's following the lure, and he takes it. A strike. Now he starts his charge. The fisherman jerks up on the rod to set the hook in the fish. Taking the line out, the fish leaps and lunges, fighting to shake loose that stabbing hook. The pole bends under the flailing fury of the battling fish, while the reel screams as the line plays out. The fisherman fights to keep the hook set. Depending on his own weight and skill, plus the pull of the boat, to tire his adversary. But the fish puts up a scrap to the very end. A stout battler and a game opponent. While only half the marlin sighted strike, just about half those that strike are hooked, and then half get away. So it's the fisherman's supreme thrill as he pulls it over the side and the proud fighter loses a battle of life and death. Birds circle as the lure is thrown. The diving gannets are nuisances and pests to the fishermen as they swoop and dive to steal the bait. There's a fin and tail. Another strike, but the fisherman loses him. The fish, blind with fury, leaps and plunges. Here lies danger, for when a flailing marlin lands in a man's lap, the peril of being hacked to death by the slapping sword lands with it. But this one's free, and in a towering rage hurtles toward the open sea. With the hook baited again, the fisherman hopes for better luck as he wonders whether to tell the boys about the one that got away.
Watch your line, watch your line. Marlin!
Another strike, and the line streams out. He's putting up a terrific battle, taking the line with all his speed and power. He's plenty hard to play as he dodges away, and the fisherman dons his harness to hold a fish that seems to be made of steel strings. Water is poured on the reel to cool the line and bearing. Marlin have been clocked at 100 miles an hour as they take the line out. The line must be kept taut, for the minute he's given slack, Mr. Marlin shakes the hook free and leaps to freedom. This mighty battler is being reeled in as he tires. But there, he still has one last battle left in him. Here's one he can tell the boys about and be proud of. A fish that fought nobly right down to the last round. A gallant blue marlin is brought to Gath. It's the happy hunting ground, with game aplenty where each warrior of the deep-sea fishing tribe wants to spend eternity. It's fisherman's paradise.
Well, that was 2 films on there. Sorry, I'm eating a sandwich. This next film is actually an advertisement, but it's a reminder today is the day to vote. Enjoy.
L.R. Jackson, Courier Dispatch. I'm on my way to the grand opening of what I consider to be the greatest show on earth. First time it's played our county. But we think when the curtain closes tonight, this will be quite a different place to live. I had a little something to do with it. That is, a man I wrote about in a series of news stories did. My beat's the county courthouse. And if you know anything about county courthouses, well, that's democracy's showplace. I don't have any free press passes for you, but you can get good seats if your credentials say USA. That probably gives it away. But we announce without apology, this is going to be a flag-waving production. If that be naive, let the sophisticates make the most of it. If there'd been more of it lately, this show would play to standing room only. However, there are plenty of seats. But it's curtain time. He's not necessarily the star in this particular show. I'd like to say he is, but wouldn't be quite true in this case. The stage of this show is that voting machine, right there. And the theme, getting them installed in this county. It didn't just happen. You see, you can legislate yourself all the laws you want about the right to vote. But whether you actually have an active electorate or not comes down, like everything else of consequence, to a matter of action on the part of a very few men and what kind of arrangements they make. In your community, it may be some other official like your councilman. In ours, it's the county commissioners who carry the assignment of seeing that there is a way and a means for every American to run his country between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. on that first Tuesday in November. Now, although voting machines are over 60 years old and are already being used by about half the voters in America, our commissioners still had to sell the idea here. A lot of work, but they felt worth doing. They got me on their team to do my series of articles when Commissioner Miller told me about the ease and speed and economy of voting with machines over paper ballots. When the voter is properly qualified, the attending election official admits him to the machine. Mr. Citizen moves the operating lever to the right, which unlocks the machine and locks out the world. For the first time, the secret ballot is really secret, and there are over 19 1/2 centuries that I know of invested in achieving just that. The voter selects his candidates by turning down the voting pointers directly above the names of his candidates. Then he records and counts his own vote by returning the operating handle to the left. That's all there is to it. He does not hand any papers to any human beings. His vote is made and cast, untouched by other human hands or minds. And that's a long step up from tyranny. The ballot is right at the voter's eye level, easily read. And all offices and all candidates are at the same eye level. No candidate suffers by being placed in an unfavorable position. The commissioner won over service clubs all over the county whenever he addressed them by reminding them of the large number of voters who are disenfranchised every year at the paper ballot type polls by making mistakes. Busy people often, by habit, make check marks on the ballot in states where X's are required. They might as well have stayed home. That vote is a no vote. Doesn't count. Illegal. Other voters find that at the last minute they have accidentally voted for the wrong man, or they change their mind. Don't, lady? It doesn't count. Or, you know election pencils. Good try, sir. But this ballot will be thrown out. Or, in the multiple choice offices, errors are frequent. She's entitled to choose 5 state representatives, but she's marked 6. This is a no vote. Simple mistakes, yes, but out of every 1,000 people, some hurried, some nervous, some uninformed, how many do you think do it perfectly? The commissioner figured there's some excuse for being disenfranchised by tyranny or war or fear. Oh, yes, it can happen here. But not for well-intentioned mistakes, not in this age of the voting machine, which cannot make a check mark instead of an X, which does let you change your mind by simply pushing the pointer back up, which has no pencil to break or paper to tear, which will not let you vote for more than you're allowed. The pointer will not turn if you've cast all your votes. Questions and issues, if any, are placed up here on the top of the ballot. The pointers are marked yes and no, or for and against. The machine won't let you spoil your ballot by voting both ways. And when you're satisfied with your vote, a new privilege awaits you. You will register and count your own vote by returning this handle. Walk away knowing your ballot cannot be disqualified, thrown out, nor miscounted. It's already counted the moment you leave. Nor can the machine make a mistake. First off, it cannot be opened except by a key after sealing the machine, which halts all voting on that machine for the day. It looks complex, but it's not a complex mechanical action. It looks so because of the large number of voting units in it. But actually, each voting assembly has a straight mechanical linkage and a rugged action like this. And of course, voting machines are not a new idea. Many new functions have been added, of course, but basically they're 12 years older than the automobile. 1892. Their use has steadily increased until last year, in 35 states and territory of Hawaii, about half of our American voters voted by machine. Why? Why? Well, newspapers went after answers. So did the commissioner. And the first answer was, it's so fast and so easy. Just 3 simple steps. First, move the red operating handle to the right. Second, select your candidates. Third, throw the red handle to the left to count and record your own vote. Why else machine voting? Absolute secret balloting. We've had no trouble about that in this county, but we don't want any either. The commissioners understood about fear, that it's a very, very subtle thing. This voter's opinion is in the machine, not on any piece of paper which passes from hand to hand. Why else voting machines? The automatic voting machine absolutely eliminates the disenfranchisement which comes from mistakes, ballot mutilations, checks instead of X's, erasures, or voting for too many candidates. On machines, every vote that's cast is counted. The count is mechanically accurate. And of course, of interest to me, and well, 170 million others, I guess, is the fact that immediately after the last voter, the election results are available. These counters cannot be exposed during the voting day. Exposure automatically locks the machine against further voting. But once opened, the result is available right now. My paper can get the results, which means the people and the candidates and the radio and TV stations can get the results hours earlier. Just read the figures off the counters to the recorders. Then check the recorded figures back against the counters. Announce the results in 5 to 10 minutes. How about the good old days? Well, counting was a 5-hour job if things went smoothly. If not, well, then it was 5 days. But the mechanical counters cannot get tired, cannot get cranky, cannot forget. Why voting machines? Well, money. Voting machines vote more people much faster. Therefore, you can consolidate your precincts, sometimes even 2 for 1. Cuts in half your need for hard-to-find election workers. Madison, Wisconsin, for example, eliminated 170 election workers. And multiply 170 by a day's pay, and you see what kind of savings we're talking about. Plus, the counting takes a quarter of an hour as opposed to 3 to 6 hours. Fewer people, fewer hours equals fewer dollars. Not always, of course. But in our type count, yes. Then take your printing costs. Paper ballots require at least 1 ballot for every voter. Voting machines, 1 printed ballot per machine. And of course, save just one old-style county-wide recount, and your machines are nearly home free. But money wasn't chiefly on the commissioner's mind. Something else. The man who took the lead in it is a seasoned professional career politician, realistic, tough even, unemotional. But that's why he knew that democracy, as an idea and a practice, had to compete in this county like everything else for the respect and attention of our people who were pressing the clock hard every day. It has to compete against speed and motion, regrettably, even against America's second cup of coffee. Everything else in the county competes hard for the citizens' increasingly valuable time. Our churches were modernizing with parking lots he could get into faster. Our marketplaces were automating to compete for his time and his dollar. Our schools modernized to command his respect and his tax dollar. The tools which our average citizen uses every day in his job of work has become fantastically automatic and fast as industry moves to automation. And even his home life is automatic, modern. But the one place where the average citizen participated in the political system which made it all possible, no change. Democracy is the foundation. The heart of that democracy is the polls, which were still being run in our county the way they were when we held Inauguration Day on March the 4th. So the new president would have 3 months to ride his horse to Washington. The driving question on the commissioner's mind, can democracy compete with its right hand tied to a hitching post? His answer, in our county, is what I consider the greatest show on earth. It's bringing out the people. As the commissioner likes to say, we've really become one of the Freedom Curtain counties.
Wow. That was awesome. I mean, it's an ad for voting machines. That's what it is. You know, the technology, there's voting machine salespeople currently going around. Well, not currently going around. I'm sure that they're helping try to make sure everything that they sold is working okay. But, yeah. And this film is fascinating because it recognizes that Americans have a lot going on in their life. And you have to update your mission or update what you do to accommodate these busy lives. Churches are putting in parking lots to make it easier to get in and out. Like, wow. Fascinating film. And what's interesting about this is it I'm trying to remember the year of it. Let me look that up real quick. But let's see. Uh, 1957. So, what is that? 65 years. 55. My math suddenly is not doing so great, but just fascinating, just to see like all the things that have not changed or we went backwards on. 65 years, and you know this machine is like a panacea. It'll solve all your problems. And I love this section where it's like they're, using a pencil. This could happen. Oh no, this could happen. It's just like an infomercial. Wow, where do I go from there? I think it's time for the sun.
brown, and the black absorbs the heat. But it comes in on the white, and the white acts like a mirror to reflect the heat, so it's not that hot. Yeah. But boy, this is hot. Look at that thing spin. Yeah. Isn't that neat? Seems like the wind would do it, but it can't because there's glass over it. Wonder how it works.
Probably the heat from the sun.
Yeah. On the back of each white one, it's black. Oh, look. It's not green under here.
Yeah.
Wonder why.
Probably, plants need the sun to grow, and since this one was over, it didn't get any sunlight.
We need food and water to live.
You need
sun to live? Well, the grass' main source of living is the sun and water.
Yeah.
And it needs sun to live. The sun gives us energy. It gives things energy to grow. The sun makes plants grow. Without plants, the cows and animals like that wouldn't be able to grow. If there wasn't any sun, there wouldn't be any life. The sun makes water dry up and it makes it go up into the clouds.
All right. So this next one is I'm gonna mispronounce this. Is it Maguey? Maguey? Anyways, I'm gonna learn how to pronounce it. Enjoy.
The Maguey was all things to the Mexican Indian Teotihuacan. It was built in the dim and distant past long before the Spaniards, led by Hernando Cortez, came to Mexico. This pyramid is the largest man mound in America, 56 feet smaller, measured around the base than the Great Pyramid of Cheops in Egypt. And men who study history tell us that rope nets and bags were made from the fibers of the maguey plant, and that the countless loads of adobe clay that went into its building. As the Indians had no burros or oxen then, they carried the loads on their backs, just as this man carries his load of alfalfa today. The story of this strange tower and its companion across the valley is unknown. They are thought to have been built by the Spaniards, but as to their use, no records have been found. When the Spaniards came to Mexico about 400 years ago, they used Indian labor to build this aqueduct. It was built to carry water across the deep valley to the little town of Los Remedios. The Indians, before the Spaniards came, did not have any horses or cattle or sheep or goats or hogs or dogs or cats, and they had no burros and no oxen. The Spaniards brought all these animals to Mexico. And so by the time of the building of this aqueduct, there were oxen to drag crude sleds and draw carts with large wooden wheels. Rope, made from the fibers of the Maguey plant, was a very important tool in all this activity. It was used to tie the ox bows to the heads of the oxen, to lift the stones into place, and to tie the smaller stones on the backs of the burros, just as these Indians today tie their loads of wood on the backs of their burros. The village of Santa Rosa, with its narrow, cobbled streets, lies on the side of a mountain above the Santa Rosa Valley. It is the beginning of the rainy season now, and on this Sunday morning, services have been held in the church at the bottom of the hill. Prayers have been offered, asking for plenty of rain for the growing crops. Homemade skyrocket bombs have been bursting in the air all morning, and the blue haze of their smoke still lingers in the sky. The band has held a concert in the churchyard. Now the services are over, and the band toils slowly up the hill, escorted, of course, by nearly all the children of the village. During the week, these people work hard, men, women, and children. But on Sunday, they go to church and to friendly family gatherings such as this at the home of the alcalde, or mayor, of the little village of Santa Rosa. Here, many families gather for lunch, afternoon and evening. The children play, the women prepare the food and chat about the weekly happenings, the men rest and talk of the crops, and perhaps drink a little homemade pulque, which has been made from the juice of the Maguey plant. In the country districts of Mexico, it is rare indeed for the people to actually live on their farms as they do in the United States. For countless centuries, they have built their homes in villages such as Santa Rosa and gone out each day to work in the fields. The home of the alcalde overlooks the entire Santa Rosa Valley, and one of the most important uses of the Maguey plant is shown here, where it is used as fencing. Planted close together along the edges of the fields, the huge thorny leaves soon become very dense and thick. Thus, not only domestic animals, but the wild deer from the mountains as well, are kept from eating the crops. The farms are small, and in most cases each family owns only one. To get the greatest harvest possible, it is important that none of the crops be eaten or destroyed by grazing animals. The products of the Maguey plant are very important to the Mexican people. To supply this need, there are, of course, many great Maguey plantations, but fortunately for the Indian, the plant grows wild all over the country. In the mountains, in the deserts, and along the roadsides, the plant and all it gives are free for the taking. Getting the juice from the Maguey plant for the making of pulque is a very simple process. Scraped in the bottom of a leaf, a little pool forms, and the man returns each morning and evening, and the juice is sucked into a gourd, which is emptied into a pigskin carried on the back and taken home. A crude paper can be peeled directly from the leaf. The pulp of the leaf can be cooked and rolled or beaten into a fine parchment. For needle and thread, the ancient tribes used the thorn at the tip of the leaf for the needle and the attached fibers for the thread. It is still used today for coarse work, such as mending harness and blankets and serapes. Rope, made from the fibers of the Maguey plant, is probably the most important manufactured product in all of Mexico. Commercially, it is a tremendous industry. Billions of pesos are invested in huge plantations and modern machinery. But as for the Indian, he still makes his rope in the ancient and primitive ways of his forefathers. Armando Martinez, an Aztec Indian, holds a Maguey leaf over a stone and beats it with a club to loosen the pulp and expose the fibers. And then with a stick, which is curved to prevent it turning in his hands, the pulp is gradually forced out, and the long, tough fibers are left. The pulp, which lathers in water, is saved and used as soap. In the yard of his adobe home, the fibers are allowed to dry for a few hours in the sun. In the English language, these fibers have many names, among them being sisal, sisal hemp, and henequen. When dry, Senor Martinez feeds the fibers into the slowly forming cord as his son, Fernando, turns a crank to which the cord is attached. The feeding of the fibers is a very important part of the process. The cord must be of uniform thickness to produce a smooth, even rope. When the cord is finished, it is doubled at the center, and this center point is then attached to the crank, and the doubled cord is twisted into a strand. 4 of these strands are made, and then they're attached to the ends of 4 small tree branches thrust through holes in a post. A board with 4 holes completes this primitive device, and as the board moves round and round, each strand is twisted separately. The other ends of the strands are attached to a hand crank slipped through a hole in a post. This post is mounted on a log which drags along the ground as the rope becomes shorter due to the twisting. Senor Martinez holds the strands apart with his left hand, and in his right holds a block of wood with grooves for each strand. This block he holds back tightly against the slowly forming rope. The result is a tightly twisted rope, strong and good for many years of service. When all the leaves have been harvested, the trunks or bolls of the plants are loaded into ox carts and brought to this primitive factory where industrial alcohol is made. The bolls are split into pieces so they will bake more easily. Then they are stacked around the rim of a pit in which stones are heating from a wood fire underneath them. When the stones are red hot, the split maguey is piled around the stones and then covered with broken up tree branches and dried leaves and left to bake overnight. It is 9:30 the next morning now, according to this homemade sundial, which is the clock of the Indians. The men have just about finished removing the covering to get out the baked maguey. It is a rich brown in color after baking and looks and tastes about like cooked sweet potatoes. When baked at home in a small fire, not only the bowl, but the leaves and the roots as well make a very fine and nutritious food. The baked maguey is taken to a saucer-like pit lined with stones, and the juices are crushed out. Small factories such as this help to supply the tremendous demand for industrial alcohol, which is needed in the making of paint, shellac, perfumes, flavoring extracts, celluloid, rubbing alcohol, and countless other products. Through holes left between the stones and the bottom of the pit, the juice trickles into an underground clay pipe, which leads to a crude still. Here, by distilling, industrial alcohol is made. As far back as history can be traced, the maguey plant has been an indispensable part of Mexican life. This was true long before the Spaniards came, and it is still true today. Beside their other uses, some leaves are cut and dried and used as roofs on the more humble dwellings. Coarse threads are made from the younger plants. The roots are dug and cooked for food. And then there are the fences between the fields and along the roadsides. There is pulque and paper and needle and thread and soap and rope and industrial alcohol. Is it any wonder that to the of Mexico, the maguey is the plant of 1,000 uses?
It's not maguey plantations, it's maguey plantations. Oh, okay. There you go. We learned something today. What's the difference between industrial alcohol and non-industrial? I don't know. Is it higher count? Is it not have sugar in it? I don't know. Have no idea. But thanks for tuning in today. If you like what you saw, hit the thumbs up button. Hit the like button. Subscribe. Tell other people about what we're doing. If you want to see more of what we got going on, go to the avgeeks.com. We have DVDs for sale there, and we also have thousands of films that we've digitized and put up there. And also have a 24/7 channel that we're slowly working on, trying to get up and running. Maybe adding comments. That's one of the things that I'm investigating now. You can donate by going to patreon.com/avgeeks and buy us coffee, America's second cup of coffee, by going to ko-fi.com/avgeeks. And as always, I really appreciate you guys. I feel strongly about voting, so please consider it. But we'll be back again tomorrow, Wednesday. Everybody have a great rest of your day. As always, please rewind and love each other, and we will see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.